You want to do everything you can to regain control, regain power over your own life. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Healthy AF. If you are stuck right now, if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, a chronic illness, a lot of weight to lose, a financial hole to dig yourself out of, this episode is for you because we are going through me personally digging myself out of my personal hole. I've been experiencing some depressive-like symptoms. I had a lot of anxiety and panic attacks in the last 4 months, and that is not very fun. So I'm walking through how I'm realigning myself and getting my life back on track, as it were. Now, if you're like, wait a second, I thought we weren't supposed to listen to people who didn't have what we want, and you're talking about mental health, but it seems like your mental health is in jeopardy, sir. Well, good job. You are listening to this podcast. I'm very proud of you because that's something I say all the time. This is why I feel like I'm qualified to do this. First of all, I think that it's super important to be authentic and vulnerable and honest, because we see so many people these days, especially that just seem like they have it all together. And though I do have some areas of my life in pretty good shape, not everything is perfect. And I want to talk about that stuff in real time and not just in the rear view mirror, looking back and saying, oh, this is what you should do. Even though that's valuable, I want to do it in real time. Secondly, I have overcome some actual hard things for the age I am. My mom passed away when I was 13. I don't think I really dealt with that because I don't think a 13-year-old is capable of dealing with that unless he has some professional help. And then I fell madly in love, and I was with that girl for 3.5 years. She was wonderful. She was awesome, but we were teenagers. You know how it is. And she ended up moving away to college. She was a little bit older than me, so she went off to college, and we ended up breaking up. And that just sent me into my first spiral into what I now know was depression. And that led to me getting Crohn's disease. I weighed 155 pounds at the time. I'm 6 feet tall, and I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And I was so tiny. I was 125 pounds. They had to wheelchair me into the hospital for my Crohn's disease tests because I was too weak to stand up. The doctor told me that I had severe Crohn's disease, that I would be on medication the rest of my life and be very, very lucky to avoid surgery. Thanks, doc. That's a lot to hit a 17-year-old with, especially someone who's lost his mom and who also just went through this breakup. So for 6 years, I did pretty much what the doctor said. I was in and out of the hospitals. I tried a bunch of different medications. Nothing really worked except for a high dose of a particularly nasty drug with a lot of side effects. And at 23, I found myself not only with Crohn's disease, but starting to get arthritis as well as a side effect from the medications I was taking. I was like, enough is enough. This is not fun. And that's when I turned the corner, as it were, and I instantly got better. No, just kidding. I did not instantly get better. It took me about 6 years of hard work, counseling, therapy, coaches, reading books, doing all this stuff, watching videos, watching Tony Robbins, diving into all this stuff, changing my health habits, changing where I live, changing who I hung out with, change. And I finally reached a point where I'm proud to say I've been off medication and in complete remission for the last 5 years of my life. When I say complete remission, it's like I don't even have Crohn's disease anymore. So, though I have not dealt with this specific thing I'm running up against right now, I've overcome some pretty hard stuff. And what I've found is that the same principles apply. Once you've overcome one hard thing, the same principles apply to future hard things. Yes, they may need to be tweaked. Yes, you may need to learn different skills, but the same principles and attitudes and habits apply to overcoming hard things in general. And that is what I want to talk about. So we've been realigning. I've been realigning myself and starting with the top 4 categories that I've found that I have the most control over. Because if you're feeling powerless, if you're having a lot of anxiety, depression, panic attacks, all this stuff, a chronic illness, you want to do everything you can to regain control, regain power over your own life. And I know there's a ton of things we don't control and we never will, but there are a few areas that we do have control over. For instance, what I put in my mouth, how much social media I consume, what I watch, what I listen to, how much I sleep, if I exercise or not, right? And that boils down to 4 major areas: physical, mental and emotional, spiritual, and financial. These areas you have more control in than other areas. And if you're an adult living out of the house, you can influence all 4 of these areas very, very strongly. So that's where I like to go back to, is what is my responsibility and how can I change and improve these areas? How am I doing in these areas? In the last video, if you haven't seen that, we went through physical and emotional and mental, and now we're going to go through spiritual and financial. I don't want to say too much about the spiritual aspect because everyone has their own beliefs and I respect that. But I will say that if you are struggling, if you are in a really, really dark place and you do not believe in a higher power of some sort, I would look into that again. I would reconsider that. My personal belief aligns mostly with Christianity, and it's carried me through some really dark times. Knowing that there is a being out there that loves me and cares for me, that is very, very powerful and much more powerful than I am, can be comforting in times where it seems like everything is out of control and everything is chaotic. And not only comforting, but I think it is honestly the most logical explanation to why we are here and so many other things, that there is some sort of creative source, energy, being, whatever you want to call it, that just makes the most sense. I don't want to dive into it farther than that, but if you're stuck, if you're struggling and you've never looked into that aspect of life, take a look. Take a look. Start wherever you like. I believe that the truth will reveal itself if you constantly seek it. The truth is the truth is the truth. And if you constantly are going after truth, honestly, you will eventually find it. So that's all I'm going to say in that aspect. Let's move on to finances. Finances is something that I've actually struggled with for a long time, which is kind of funny because I was a commodities broker. I love this stuff. I'm the guy that likes doing a budget, but I've always had a bit of a financial lack. And I think a big part of that is the fact that I focus so much time and energy on my health and on my mental and emotional growth, so much money on coaches and counselors and events and all of this stuff. And I love the result that I've gotten from that. My health is way better. Overcoming a chronic illness, turns out, is really, really hard. And you do have to change a lot of areas of your life. And I'm so happy with my investment in that area. But about 4 months ago, when this all came to a head, I was looking at my finances, and I've been doing a budget religiously for about 3.5 years now. And so I have this graph, and I was looking at the graph, and I was in about the same amount of debt as I was 3.5 years ago. And I was like, I guess I'm not as good at finances as I thought I was, right? Because I'm not getting the results that someone who's good at finances should be getting. Like, it's been 3.5 years. It's not like I'm in lag time, or it's not like I need to catch up. It's not like I've been doing all the workouts and doing the right things and I'm just like still overweight, right? If you've been working out hard and you've been eating right and you've been sleeping right and meditating for 3.5 years, you should definitely see some changes, okay? So there's something I'm doing wrong here in the financial area that I need to correct. And this is something I've talked about before, but I think is so important. You really, really need to, if you want to create change, be honest with yourself and say, hey, this area I'm doing actually pretty well in. Like I said in the last episode, in my physical area, I'm still doing pretty well, even with all the stuff going on. I'm still doing all right. But in this financial area, I'm really, really not. I'm not doing well here. And that's okay, to be honest with myself. Now I need to plant a flag in the sand and say, okay, this changes. This changes today. I'm going to start making changes. And what I personally did was I went out and I actually got a Dave Ramsey course, very affordable. But Dave Ramsey, whether you agree with him or not, is somebody who was massively in debt, worked his way out of debt, and has now created a ton of wealth, which is exactly what I want to do. So I went out and found somebody who had done what I'd already done and bought one of his very cheap courses and just started listening to what he says. If you've never heard Dave Ramsey before, a big thing with him is just cutting up all of your credit cards and just getting out of debt just as fast as you possibly can. Just take all of your money, basically, that you can to spare, live as cheaply as you can, and pay off debt as fast as you can. So that is exactly what I've been doing for the last 4 months. I've been living for very, very cheap. I have been doing a job that I actually really don't like, but pays very, very well. It's an old job that I used to do in the past. So one of my old bosses needed help, and it just all worked out that I was able to do this job. And I don't like it. It's not fun, but I'm paying off debt at a rapid clip, and fortunately should be out fairly quickly within the year of 2024 for sure, which is awesome that I was able to plant a flag in the sand and change things that fast. Very, very inspiring. So the takeaway from this for you, if you're watching this, is I want you to look at those 4 areas of your life. And this may take some time. It may even take a couple of days to really be honest with yourself and really dive in and look at these areas. Do not be afraid to compliment yourself if you're doing well in a certain area. If you're doing really, really well, let's say your spiritual life is just amazing. That's fantastic. That is awesome. That's great. But you need all 4 to be a robust and show up for other people in the best possible way. So tell yourself the truth and plant a flag in the sand and say, I'm going to change this in 2024. We're already, almost more than halfway through January. And if you haven't started changing your life, everyone likes to set New Year's resolutions, whether you agree with it or not. If you haven't started changing your life and you've already set New Year's resolutions and it's been 3 weeks and you haven't made any change yet, the odds of you making change in the rest of the year are pretty low. So why don't you start now? You need to start now. You need to plant a flag in the sand and say, nope, I'm done with this. This is going to be different. And then seek out someone who has the results that you are looking for, who can teach you and handhold you and guide you along the way. Okay, you can do this. I believe in you. And if you're lacking motivation, remember, yes, do it for yourself. Do it because you're worth it. And that fire in your soul that says you can do more and you can be more and you can give more and you have more capability inside of you is real. And you need to lean into that and stop doubting yourself and believe in yourself, but also attach that motivation to some other person, whether it be for your kids or for your spouse or for people as a whole, like I did. That really helped pull me out of Crohn's disease. And that's exactly what I'm doing now with this depressive like symptoms, anxiety and panic attacks. I'm talking about it and I'm getting out of it. I'm pushing myself to get out of it for you all watching this. It's really helpful and really motivating to say, okay, well, I don't feel like doing this today, but I've got to go on camera and talk about my experiences and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So man, I just better buck up and do this, because I don't want to go on in a week and say, well, I actually went back into more debt and I actually just ate pizza and donuts all day and just sat around and I didn't actually do anything this week, guys. And I'm sorry. That's really motivating. That will really push you and inspire you if you can tie that in. So I believe in you. You got this, and I'll see you in the next episode.